All right, so today we're going to look at the paddle and the ball. In this case, the names are, the ball is actually a starfish named Pop, and the paddle is a shellfish named Katch. Okay, so just like always, we start with the sprites we need for the game. I did take the time to at least create the sprites for the other colored blocks, so that's new from the last video, in the last class. So we're going to create the sprites for Pop and Katch. So here we go. And there's two Pop sprites, so you kind of have to be careful on which one you choose. So here's the one we want. This is an animation, and all Pop does is just kind of go in a circle constantly. We do want to remove the background. For collision checking, we want to make it circular, and it looks like it already is. Maybe click on disk. That might be a good way to do it. Yeah, I removed the background. So if it's going to bounce like a ball, even though the starfish has points on it, it's not going to do the points so much. So what I said to do was just go in there and say disk, so it just goes around. Okay. And that should be fine, I think, for this game. Okay. And again, it just spins around. That's the animation. He's happy. Okay. The other sprite we want is the Katch sprite. And here, again, you have to be careful. There's a small version of Katch and then a large one. We want to do the large one. And again, we want to remove the background. The small is for showing lies, but we're going to choose something else, I guess. Now, I forgot to mention on these sprites is it's really important to center both the Pop sprite and the Katch sprite. So make sure you say center, and that'll put the origin in the center of the sprite. You want to do the same thing with Pop. So I'm going to go back to Pop and center him too. Okay. So when we put them on the screen, they'll be centered based on their center position, or they'll be placed based on their center position. Okay. Next, we add the objects for the two sprites we just created. And we'll use the Pop sprite. Make sure not to click solid. The only thing that should be solid, really, I think, is the wall and the blocks. Okay. This is object Katch. Spelled with a K. And Katch is also not solid. We're also going to need a wall to kind of build our first room. So let's create the wall sprite. Load up the wall sprite. It's the last one. This one here. Make sure not to click remove background. Otherwise you make the block kind of see-through. So uncheck that. That's kind of important. It doesn't need to be centered. So don't hit the center button. I won't go with that. And then we also need a wall object. And the walls are going to be solid. Okay? So I think we have all the components now to build a good room. Now remember, the rooms we have are the starting room and the ending room. Now we want to put the ones in the middle. So So I just right click here and I say create room. So here's our new room. We're going to set we'll set the snap or the grid to 20 by 20. 20 by 20 is the size of the wall, makes it easier to draw the walls. Okay, so we're going to draw the walls in. Again, what you can do is you can do them one at a time like this, or if you hold down the shift key and click and drag, left click and drag, you can kind of paint them on. Oops. To get rid of mistakes, you just right click, gets rid of them. Okay? So this is going to be the basic shape of our room. Next we want to add maybe the Katch sprite. You want to give yourself as much room as possible. So I'd put him right here on the bottom, maybe in the center. I don't know if that's the center, but it's close. And then I would put Pop kind of in the center as well. Maybe somewhere around here. That might be a good spot to start. Or maybe start him just above Katch. Okay. That looks nice. Yeah, so add the background. We'll use the same background we used on the other rooms. Yeah, question. Yeah, not the bottom one, because that's, if Pop falls out, that's when you lose a life. So you want to leave that open. Okay, so let's set our background then. We only have one background, so that looks nice. Since we have some tiles, have I made a tile yet? I haven't really, have I? Well, let's just worry about Katch and Pop right now. We'll worry about tiles later, or blocks later. All right, so now that we have a Katch object, we want to be able to move them around on the screen. And what we have to do is before we move them, we got to make sure we're not up against the side of the wall. All right, so what we want to do is go to the Katch object then. That's here. And we want to put in a keyboard event. And let's say it's left. And so we're going to let it move left if it's not up against the wall. So we need to do a check first. And this one's kind of new. We say check object. And the object we're looking for is the wall. So we're looking to our left. Well, we're going to look 10 pixels to our left. So we'll say -10. Y we don't really care about. We'll say relative. And we'll say not. Okay, if there is not a wall, -10 pixels to the left. If that's true, then we're going to allow it to move to the left. So we're going to do a jump to position instead of that one, instead of a move free. And so since it's free, we're going to move to the left by 10. And again, that's relative. Now for right, we're going to do something similar. So this time we're going to check object, but we're going to look off to our right. And we're looking for the wall again. This time we want to go 10 pixels to our right, so we say 10, positive 10. I want to make it relative to the current position of Katch, and we want to say not because we're trying to see if there's not a wall there. If there's not a wall there, then we're going to allow them to jump to the right 10 pixels. So the speed is basically 10 to move Katch around. Make sure to check relative. So my hope is that Katch will now stay in the room. Let's try it and see if this works. Hey, we win. So this didn't quite work. What's the problem here? Yeah, we've got room 2, which is our real room, kind of in between these two. So just drag it up, and that will change the position of it. I guess you have to drag it up to, puts it after. So room 2, well, no, we want it there, right in the middle. Okay. So it'll show us our start screen, and then we'll go to room 2, and then we'll go to the congratulations screen. Okay, here we go. Hey, there's our first room. Okay, so we're testing to see if Katch will stay in the room. And it's looking to the left, and it sees that there's a wall there, so it stops the movement. Okay. We didn't have to create a collision event. We just have to look before we move. That seems to work better a lot of the times. Okay. So that's the first step, is to get Katch to move back and forth. Next, for pop, what we wanted to do is we want it to be affected by gravity. Okay. This is the first time in the game where we're actually using gravity as one of the things that's going to change the direction in which pop goes. Let's try it first without gravity, and you'll see it gets really boring really quick. Okay, so we go to pop, and when pop gets first created, ooh, I crashed. Look at that. That was weird. So in the create event for pop, we want to give pop kind of a upward motion. But we want it to be kind of random. You just don't always want it to go straight up. I mean, we could do this, right? But it's never going to change. It'll go straight up, speed of 12 maybe. But that would be kind of boring. We could also do this, where we either go up or we could go diagonally. But again, that's not random enough. We want something a little bit more random. So we're not going to do a move fix, because that's too limiting. Okay. We're going to do the one right next to it, move free. And this one gives you 360 degrees of direction. Okay. We want it to, well, let's talk about direction, because we need to kind of get this clear in our head. So I'm going to bring this up on the overhead. Okay, so if you look up here on the overhead, basically this is our directions in the game. I think I've talked about this once before, but this is in degrees, right? So if you want to go straight to the right, that's 0 degrees. So 0 is on the right. And I don't know, in physics, is it usually on the right or is it up? I'm not sure. Like if you're on a compass on a map, 0 would be pointing straight up. This is different. 0 is to the right. 90 is straight up. 180 is to the left. And 270 is down. Okay. And what we want to do is we want pop to kind of shoot out randomly, kind of between maybe 60 degrees and over here. Yeah, I know, I didn't draw it very well, but between 60 and 120, because you want us to start going up. Remember, we're going to add gravity here, so that's going to pull it down. So we want to start going up. So we want to choose angles or directions between 60 and 120, but we want to do it randomly. Okay. Now there's a function you can call called random, and what it will do is it will generate numbers from 0 to whatever number you put in. Maybe it's not inclusive. But we're going to put that in the create event. So our direction is going to be this, and this is where you have to type in pretty carefully. You say random, all lowercase, and then we're going to say 60. And that will give us numbers between 0 and 59, or maybe 0 and 60. But again, that would shoot it off to the right. So we have to add a offset, so we can, instead of going off to the right side like this, we want to kind of turn it so it's up like this. So we're going to generate that random number, and then we're going to add 60 to it. Okay? And that will give us numbers between 60 and 120, right? And that's what we want. So we're just turning that a little bit so it goes straight up. And we'll set the speed at 12. And it's not going to be relative. Okay? So that'll get pop moving up in one of those directions. Let's try it just to see what happens with pop. Okay, so I'm going to start this. There's pop, flies right off the screen. But notice he didn't go straight up, he went kind of off to the left. Okay. He is gone, okay. So we need collision events, but at least I think we have pop moving, starting out in the right direction. Now we want to give pop some gravity. Yeah, we want it to kind of be, you know how when you shoot something out it looks like a parabola? That's kind of what we're trying to do. So it's this one here, set gravity. Our direction, well, gravity's down typically, right? At least on the Earth it is. Other planets probably so. So our direction is 270. That's in degrees. And then the gravity we want to add, well, I can't remember. I'm going to say 2. That's probably too much, but we'll see what happens to pop with 2. So you can imagine yourself making Angry Birds. Okay, you're simulating gravity. Oh, 2's too much. See how it just kind of blipped off the screen? Yeah. I would say 0.2, 0.2, because it really pulled it, you know, it went up by 12, but suddenly it just falls right off the screen. So that was a little too much gravity. Okay, so let's take a look at this and see if gravity looks a little bit more realistic. Here we go. Look up on the screen here. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. Yeah. So you see how it started to go up in a parabola and then come back down. So 2 seemed like a good way to start. Okay. Yeah, you could. Remember, you're underwater, so that's going to affect gravity or something. Yeah. So depends on how buoyant you are, I guess. Okay, so we have pop being shot out in the right direction. We have gravity associated with it. Now we want to do the collision with the wall. And this is pretty simple. So collision with the wall. And all we want to do is bounce against solid objects. So that's this one. And I would say not precisely. I'm not sure what the book says, but I don't think it matters much. We'll see. Here we go. Hey, it hit the wall. Ooh. Okay. So that worked out, but now we have to define a collision event between pop and catch. Okay. So we'll add a collision event. And we'll do that with catch. And for now, at least, we'll just rebound off a catch, but we're going to change this later. Okay. Remember, catch isn't solid, so we have to change that. So bounce against all objects. In this case, it's going to be catch. And you'll note there's some problems with this. And so we're going to have to fix these problems. Okay, so goink. See how it doesn't really matter where we hit pop on the paddle, it's always the same. If it hits on the edge, it's not going to shoot to the left. On the right, it doesn't do anything. So this is dull as dirt. Okay. I don't know how dull dirt is, I guess. Okay. So again, you really have no control on where Pop's going to bounce to. We weren't able to change Pop's angle. There was a whole bunch of things that were wrong. We want to give the user a little bit more control. And this is where it gets kind of complicated. Okay, so we're going to go back to our little chart here. And remember, we have Pop starting out between 60 and 120. But we want to have the angles that it bounces off of Katch a little bit wider. So we want to go between 50 degrees, let's say, and this would be 130. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit wider than what we have. So this is bouncing off Katch. Now, if you remember, we centered the sprites for Katch and Pop. So suppose this is Katch, and its center is right there. And here's Pop. Here's Pop, and its center is right in the middle of the star. And what we're going to do, so we can figure out which side Pop lands on, the paddle, is we're going to take the two positions of Pop and Katch, and we're going to subtract off, we'll take like object Katch, so whatever the x-coordinate is for object Katch, and we're going to subtract off the x-coordinate for Pop. And what that will do is give us the difference between Pop and Katch. If we get a number, say x is, let's assume that this is 100. Now, Katch is 80 pixels wide, so that width is 80. So there's 40 on this side and 40 on that side. And so let's say Pop hits right here, which would be, let's say about 80. So maybe this is 80. So we take Katch's x, which is 100, and we subtract off 80, and we'll get positive 20. Okay? And that'll be the difference between Pop and Katch. If Pop, say, lands over here and say the x is 120, so we say Katch's x minus 120, and we get 80. All the way at the end, so 100, yeah, that's right, this is negative 20. Negative 20, that's why I was a little confused. Okay, so 100 minus, this one here is, we're at 60, right? So 60, that would give us 40. Okay, so there's 40. And then 100 minus 140, negative 40. Okay, so we got negative 40 over here, positive 40 over there. We want to go from 50, or our width is 90, right? No. 90 was the last one. Oh yeah, we want to do 90. Yeah, so our range is between negative 40 and 40. And so that what that would do is if we would do it, it would shoot off this way. And we don't want that. Okay? We want it to shoot up this way. So to move 40 up to where 50 is, that'll be our left side, we have to add 90 to the result of the equation. To rotate it so that it's going to be going up. Yeah. So again, kind of complicated. But this is the equation that we want to use. I just want to explain it. If it wasn't completely clear, it takes some thinking. It took me about a day or two to understand this. But I think I have it figured out now. So we're gonna delete this. Okay. So that's gone. And we're gonna do a move free like we did it at the beginning in the create event. So we want a random number. Well, this isn't really a random number. We want to figure out where object catch is, and you got to make sure if you had a different name for catch, you have to use that different name here, or this will crash. So we say object catch.x. That means get me the x coordinate of object catch is the middle of object catch, and subtract off x, which is pop's x, right? Because we're in the pop object. So you don't have to say pop, you can just say x. Then we want to add 90 to that. And that will turn it so it points up instead of off to the side. And our speed, this is kind of odd. We're going to say we're going to say 0.3, and we're going to say relative. And so what that'll do is it'll speed pop up just a little bit. Every time he hits pop, or every time pop hits catch, it's going to speed up pop just a tiny bit. And so if you have pop that you've kept on the board for a long time, it's going to get harder and harder to move your paddle underneath him, because he's going to be going faster and faster. Okay? But only by a little bit. Okay? So let's give this a try and see if we get the behavior we want. Okay, so here's Pop. He's affected by gravity. That didn't work at all. Do you see that was a mess? So my guess is because I said relative. I thought relative would mean add to the speed, but I think it's adding to the direction. So you want to unclick relative, and then we have to do this. This is kind of kludgy. Speed plus. So whatever the speed is right now, add 0.3 to it, and that'll be the new speed. I call it a kludge. That's something that you code it up, but it's kind of, it's not the best use of code, I guess. Good programmers would look at this and go, oh, this is kludgy. Yeah, kludge with a G. Okay, so let's try this now. Our hope is that now pop and catch will interact correctly. If you didn't center pop and catch, it'll be kind of weird. Yeah, you'll get some strange bounces if pop and catch aren't centered. They both have to be centered. Let's see what happens now. Yeah, that seemed to work. Let's see if I can get them to bounce. See how I was able to bounce them to the right now? Hits the edge. Now you don't want it to bounce too acutely. Darn it. If it hits the side, you still want to bounce it up at least, like at the right side, at least 50. Even though it hit the side of the paddle, we still don't want it to bounce down. You never want pop to bounce off the paddle going down. You always want, if you hit it anywhere on pop, it's going to go at least 50 degrees to the right. It's not going to be more acute than that. Or 130. It's not going to go more than that. We're kind of forcing to work. Now in real physics it wouldn't work that way, but hey, this is a game, right? Now if you ever have to do a simulation for science class, Game Maker is a great way to do simulations. It's not just a game platform. You could also use it to create whole animations that you could film or put in science experiment to show how this stuff works. Yeah, I use it for that sometimes when I'm doing computer science. Okay, so now you should have pop bouncing around happily. If you're having trouble and pop seems to be not bouncing correctly, things you want to check are first, on the pop sprite you want to make sure it's centered. Also the catch sprite needs to be centered. So make sure those two are centered. Yeah, so other things you want to look at if you're having problems is here in the collision event between pop and catch, make sure, oh, it didn't get my, oh, that's the wall. Make sure this equation is correct. It will blow up if you didn't get this name right. So whatever you named object catch, if you don't have that there, And there's a period there. I know it's really small, but object catch period X. It's not a space, it's a period. Then put in a space and say minus X and then add 90. And for the speed, we want to say speed plus 0.3. Yeah. Okay. Now, since we have one of our blocks defined, at least we have a sprite for it, I want to just show you how to just do the first block. And then you can start designing at least some of your levels. Remember, you have to leave space for the squid somewhere behind the wall. So keep that in mind while you're designing your levels. But at this point, you should have blocks for each one of these sprites. I'm going to just do 2 of them and show you what you need to do to make it work. So here, we'll just call it object block 1. And we'll choose our block sprite, our first one. And this is going to be solid so that pop will bounce off of it. Then we're going to go back to pop and we're going to add a collision event. With object block 1. And what we want to do is first we want pop to just bounce off of it. So remember that was this one. So we're bouncing off solid objects. But then we also want to do 2 things. You want to destroy the block, but you also want to add a little bit to the score as well. So we go to the score tab, and you can set your scoring any way you like. I say maybe 10. You could say 50 or 100, I don't know. Some people like bigger scores, so.
Like Japanese games.
Yeah, 12 trillion. Some pinball machines, you know, you're in trillion land. You hit a couple bumpers. Yeah. You want to say relative because you don't want to set the score to 20. You want to add 20 to the score, so you want to say relative. Whatever the score is now, add 20 to it. And then we also want to delete the block. So here's a little garbage can. Now, a lot of people forget to change this. We're in object pop. If you leave this set to self, it's going to delete pop, and the block will stay there. That's not what you want, obviously. So you want to say other. So what this means is whatever pop collided with, that other thing, in this case it's a block, get rid of that. Don't do this where you say, okay, I'm going to get rid of object block. Hey, what this will do was get rid of all the object blocks, okay? Not just the one you bounced against. Okay, so you want to say other here, okay? I'm going to do the second one as well. And you'll see why I'm doing 2 in a second. Here's my sprite for that. We'll make it solid. But then, okay, this block is no different from the other block other than it's yellow. Okay? So it gets really lame. I mean, you say, okay, I got to collide with this block. Well, what do I have to do? Well, I have to do the exact same thing. Okay? So you cut and paste it here. Now, you don't have to do this right now. I'm showing you how not to do it. This is how not to do it. This is lame because for every color, you're going to have to copy these 3 things in there, which is completely redundant. And so in order to avoid this, so you don't have to do this for every color block, we have 7 different colors. Okay? I'm not even going to define a collision event. But what I am going to do is out on the object block 2, I'm going to say there's this thing called a parent. So we're going to use parent power. And we're going to put the parent of this to object block 1. So what this tells GameMaker, the GameMaker engine, is that when pop collides with block 2, treat it like it was a block 1. And rebound. And no, you can if you want. Then you'd have to do separate ones. But here, as soon as I do that, that's the last one I have to make a collision event for, because blocks 1 through 7 will be just like block 1, and it will execute this event handler here. The collision mask. Okay, so now we can start putting blocks in the room. Now I see a lot of people do this, and it's really doesn't look very professional, where they click a block and the blocks overlap. Let's see if I can make it overlap. I guess I can't. Yeah, there's all these overlapping blocks. You don't want that. You want to put a block every 2 squares. And again, this is Rainbow Reef, so you have to make it look colorful. So maybe a little pattern here. So here's our pattern. And then I might put in a couple block 2s. And again, it makes no difference. But don't overlap the tiles. That's confusing to the player. Now, you'll note too that object pop doesn't give you a lot of time to react, because he's going to go shooting off right at the beginning and in one of these directions, and you're not going to have so much time. So I'm going to move pop down a little bit. So I'll get rid of him here. I'm going to move him down here, maybe. So I'll give the player a little bit more time to react to pop. Okay? Let's see if this works out the way we think. Don't forget to make your block solid. This is also our first game that's going to include power-ups, so we'll have power-up blocks as well. Okay, so here we start. Okay, it's a game now. Whew. Oops. You know how tired I am playing this game? I have to grade everyone, so I play this game. I've probably played this game 200 million times or something. Gravity seems a little bit weak. And we are underwater, so I might add a little bit more gravity. You see it curving, but it's not enough. So just whatever you think is best on the gravity. I said, what did I say, 0.2? 2 seemed to be way too much. But maybe we can do it 0.3. And the goal of this game is not to get rid of all the tiles, although you can change that since you're the game designer. Okay. Yeah, so you want to make sure your block is solid. You want to make sure the block disappears.
Okay, I got that.
You got that? Okay. So I'm going to increase gravity a little bit on pop, and that's in the create event. You can set the gravity whatever you want. I'll try 3. And we'll try it one more time. So if you finished everything that we've done today, I would start building your rooms. Remember to leave rooms for your squid guys behind the walls, but you can start building some. You want to break through the wall so you can get to the squids. If you kill all the squids, that's what gets you to the next level. Or you could read on in the book and it shows you how to make the squids. We'll do that tomorrow or next time. Yeah, gravity. See, at 0.3 it's like really heavy. So if we're increasing the gravity, we probably should speed it up to begin with. Yeah, so this is a little too much gravity now. Let's try changing the speed and see if that helps. So the start speed we set to 12. Maybe I set it to 16. Again, play around with it. Whatever you think would provide the best gameplay, that's what you should choose. Or you could look at the book. They have a suggested speed and level of gravity. We're going to need 10 on this one. Oh, that's fast. Okay. So maybe just go with the first way. We'll just call it good. So again, I'm now changing my mind and going back to 2. And in the create event, instead of 16, we're going 12. Okay. So we'll stick with that. That's probably good for me when I'm testing it, because if everyone uses the same numbers, then I can play the game a little bit better. If it's different for every game, it's going to be hard to grade. Right? So if you're done with all this, I would start making your rooms now. If you haven't completed all your block sprites, or say you've completed the sprites but haven't created the other blocks, you want to do that. And I'll do that before the next time we meet. Okay? But try to get an object for all of these things. And then we have power-up blocks that we're going to have to deal with. I think the next thing we do is to make the squids. So if you want to jump ahead a little bit, you can read the book and start making the squids. The squids, there are 4 types of squids. There's a big squid, there's a big squid that moves, there's a small squid, and there's a small squid that moves. Okay? So there's 4 different kinds of squids. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording now.